Hi, my name is Martha and welcome back to my booktube channel. And today I'm going to be reviewing We Should All Be Feminist by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This was a book that was a transcription of a TED talk that she gave a few years back. And I think one of the clips was also inserted into Beyonce's Flawless. So I thought that this book would be an expansion of the speech of the TED talk, but it seems that she just transcribed what she said at the talk into a book. So I listened to it on audiobook. It was only an hour, so it was a short book. So if this is something that you are looking to read, then it's quite an easy read or an easy listen. And it is, for anyone who is a beginner feminist and wants a stepping stone into feminism. But for me, it didn't give me everything I was looking for necessarily. So the things that I liked were it talked about how the micro ways in which patriarchy disenfranchises women and the sort of small things that are just contributes to the marginalization of women, which may not matter in the grand scheme of things, but are part of that macro scheme of things. She also talked about a way of being feminist by raising boys and girls better, by raising boys with a different look on masculinity, and by raising girls with a different look on femininity and gender roles, and even for men with gender roles, and how raising them differently will at least minimize the sort of harm that might be caused by toxic masculinity on women, and might also be able to empower women in that sense as well, and be able to put a focus on girls so that we can roll back the disenfranchisement that women have gone through under the hands of patriarchy. She also talked about bottom power, a sort of soft power that women have, in the sense that they can use their sexuality to be able to gain a step ahead in a situation or in life. I felt like that was a quite interesting point, because she also talked about how that is just an access to someone else's power, which is interesting because the men bring up that women have all the power, which is not real power, and sort of contributes to that idea of the fallacy of the black matriarchy, which he didn't talk about, but that is just something else I am adding in because bell hooks has been on my mind recently. She talked about anger and justified anger, and women having this anger that men try to tell women that they should not be angry. It is not good for a woman to be angry. And she was talking about this anger that is justified, that anger, gets shit done. If you know, if you've watched American Gods, then anger gets shit done. And talking about the way that people try to brush off women's and oppressed people's anger in general, in order to pacify them, to say that they shouldn't be so angry, that things have now changed, to placate people with tokenism so that they may not be so angry, as it were. So the things I didn't like was this was a speech, so the ideas were just scattered and unfleshed out. And when she was talking about the raising of men in a different way, and how fragile masculinity affects women, and she gave an example of paying on dates, and how paying for dates should be for whoever has more money should pay on dates, which is fine. I mean, she can talk about paying for dates in the context of feminism, and there's something there when it comes to fragile masculinity. She also spoke about men who will steal from their parents in order to pay on dates, which is something that happens. So I just felt like that idea could have been more fleshed out. So if you're talking about the idea of dates and fragility and feeling emasculated, then I wanted a bigger context. So we can talk about equality. We can talk about this reinforcement of male gender roles. We can talk about narcissism. We can talk about these dangerous ideas that men feel that they have to own women, that women are property and they have to, pay for what they get. Those are ideas that all go into that one small thing, that if she had looked at the macro, then she could be able to dig into the micro of it, of that paying on dates. So it was very surface level, and I was looking for more than what she gave us. She seems to excuse benevolent misogyny, and she was kind of saying that these kind of misogynists are, they don't mean harm, they just, they're part of the system. And as much as she was talking about raising boys differently, we are dealing with the men who are in this society right now. We are dealing with laws that have disenfranchised women right now. We're dealing with policies that disenfranchise women and control women's bodies at the moment. These are macro ways in which patriarchy is affecting women. We are still talking about with girls getting education. And in fact, there's even a conversation about too much focus on the girl child, that there is too much focus on the girl child and we should now focus on the boys. Well, isn't feminism about getting equality for everyone? I wish there was a bigger discussion on how equality feels like oppression for the privileged. And if she could have dug into that, she talked about how people would kind of tell her, why are you talking about women, feminism? Why can't you be egalitarian? Why can't you talk about humanism? And yes, while she was correct that the issues of women are specific and this ignores how women have been disenfranchised specifically, I would have liked an example. I have heard of the American example, and this is an African feminist, so I was expecting an African context. Feminism in an American context is very different from feminism in an African context. Our cultures are very different. The way patriarchy works in Africa and in America is very different, and in different parts of Africa as well. We talk about the myth of the black matriarchy, but there were real matriarchies in West Africa, and I would have loved to hear what happened to that matriarchy. Was it a myth? Was it a true matriarchy? If we're talking about the collapse of that, how did colonialism contribute to that? Those are the kinds of things I wanted to hear about. To just conclude that point on benevolent misogyny and excusing these men for what they do, that they don't mean no harm. I mean, she said that she was hurt by these things, that these kind of comments and these kinds of gestures that she was shown by these men who dismissed her because she was a woman. And I feel like she doesn't need to excuse them. I also felt like she asked a lot of questions without answering them. There were a lot of asking, why do men do this? Why does officers operate like this? Why was I not class prefect in school and it was given to a boy just because he was a boy? Why this? Why that? And I just felt like I came for the answers. You said we should all be feminists, and you asked questions that I too had and did not answer them. So we're all confused. So where are we leading each other to? Another thing is she seemed to be a bit defensive on her position as a feminist. She kept on defending her stance by saying, I wear lip gloss, I wear heels, I look like this feminist. Feminists are not just burning bras and, not shaving or not wearing deodorant. And I felt like she didn't need to necessarily defend her position. If she's talking about feminist politics, then I don't necessarily feel like women have to defend that position. If you have feminist politics, stand in your truth. Personally, I too am trying to come to a point where I can stand in a particular truth, but with backing and, facts and a sort of educated stance, so that I cannot just be saying, oh, I'm this and I'm that and I'm that. But I felt like if she was okay with being a feminist, that she didn't need to defend anything about feminism. There are people who are outliers of any group, any movement, and I don't think that she necessarily needed to defend herself. I mean, there are Black liberators who also had more radical politics that not everybody agreed with, and there were still black liberators. So I don't know why feminism is defended so much, and I just feel like it's this misogyny coming in to derail what feminism is about again. And yeah, I didn't care for that. Another thing is she went into this bizarre description of her brother, who is a male feminist, and she says he is handsome and that sort of thing. And I was wondering, so okay, so men should be feminist because your brother is a handsome dude, and men can be, feminists can be hot like your brother. So it didn't compute. So, auntie, you need to, you can't let these men off the hook, man. Like, if they want to be feminist, let them be feminist. We can't be qualifying feminism by how people look and their appearance and what they do. If they are standing in the politics, then let them stand in it. We cannot coddle people who do not want to join a movement. But at the same time, we need them, but we need to call things for what they are. And some of the add-ons that she gave were really unnecessary, I felt. Raising children differently is a different aspect of feminism that should be talked about. And other feminist writers have talked about. She's not the first, but it's just one part of it. And this worked better as a speech than as a book. And would have just been better fleshed out and given more context. I would have just loved to see how the Nigerian government specifically has contributed to this system of patriarchy. There was a big feminist movement in Nigeria, and I thought I was going to hear all about that, but sadly she did not write about that. There are other writers I can look to see this kind of development of feminism in Africa. But while this was a rousing cry for feminism, a very rousing speech, you can pat yourself on the back and feel like you can now convert to feminism. I feel like this was like the first step into getting into more feminist theory for someone who doesn't know what feminism is all about, who thinks that feminism is not for them. But it was a bit on the surface and not the kind of digging into it what I was looking for. Don't hate me, I still love Auntie Chimamanda, please. Like, I would, she's still a good writer, and this is not a knock on her, but the book just did not work for me this time. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell for to see my videos when they come up. So bye.
This is where I feel